you goddamn little...
Ow! Fuck me in the goat ass!
What's up, everyone? Tinman with the Resistance. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance. Tinman, give me the phone! Give me the phone! No, fucker! Get the hell out of here! No, I gotta touch the car! We gotta touch the car! This is important! What? What do you want, you little asshole? Hey, come here! What are you doing, brother?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I've been pulling some pipes there. I don't know why, but this new guy there, they put this dude in office, and he's got me building tents, giggles, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I heard you got a carny. Tell me about that. Tell me about that.
Oh, I get it. So when are you going to find your way up here?
You know about carny? Yeah. Hey, I want to know about the carny. You know what, Connor? Go ahead. Tell us about carny.
Well, this is the interesting thing about the Mark Carney. You see, we share a name, sort of, but in essence, when the leader of Canada, which was Justin Trudeau for a while back, he had power in government for a long time. Canada has this interesting format in government where you could run and you could not win the election but still be in power, where they call that a minority government. So for instance, if the three of us are available to vote for, if you get 35% of the votes and I get 32% of the votes and Grandmaster Revan gets another 33% of the votes, no one really got a huge majority. Clearly, the country spoke and said that the three of us should lead together. So what happens is we run, and because you got the 35, you're in charge. We do your ideas. But what happens is that maybe there's one of your ideas that I like that Revan doesn't, but my votes and your votes put together cancel out Revan. Maybe there's a day where you and Revan want to do something and I don't like it. The two of you work together and it doesn't matter. And from time to time, all three will get together and make something happen. That's called a minority government. Now, we have what's called a majority government, which is the governing structure that the Americans are most used to, which is, excuse me, apparently my city is exploding. Go outside, do the podcast outside. It'll be fun, they said.
Right. Yeah,
So,
watch out for the sniper in the tree, they said.
Right? So a majority government is what you guys are used to. You do your election, guy A, guy B, winner takes all, and it doesn't matter if you end up with like 75% of the votes and me and somebody else get together. It's impossible for us to override you on a numbers scale, so you have the majority. So what you say goes. So this is what's important.
Okay.
Justin Trudeau won for the very first time as a minority government. The other thing that's important in those two things is that if the country is under what's called a minority government, we go to the polls and we do an election every 2 years. If it's a majority government, we give that individual 4 years to execute the plan, and then we go back to the polls. So the election dates change according to the style of government that was chosen by the people, percentages, so on and so forth.
Okay.
Now that we understand how it works, Trudeau came in on a minority government when he wasn't in power. And then they did an election 2 years later. It was another minority government, but now he was in power. So that's 4 years of governance where Justin Trudeau is part of the governing body of Canada. Next election, he takes the majority government. Now, we can pin this date when you're trying to figure out when the fuck was the majority government. The majority government was formed when Canada made cannabis federally legal across the entire country. Because Justin
we need
Trudeau
to do that here in the States. Trump.
So
Just saying, regardless of whether you smoke weed or not, it has medicinal purposes. There's no real backlash to it other than, driving while inebriated, which we already have DUI laws for that. So what would be the point of criminalizing this? You have good people who are in jail in states like here in Tennessee for stupid marijuana charges. It's fucking stupid. Just do away with it. Regardless of whether you smoke weed or not, I think we can all agree that, marijuana laws at this point are fucking stupid.
Oh, it's retarded. It's like I've always said though. I sum it up like this: Al Capone, right, when doing the rum running and the prohibition of alcohol and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of how criminalistic Mr. Capone was, Al Capone did not do what he did with alcohol to encourage drinking and driving. He did it
Hmm.
so that you could enjoy a good meal and a drink, we'll say, and that shouldn't be criminalized. Well,
Yeah.
when I and anybody like me
Drink
who was
responsibly,
growing
smoke responsibly.
right, and when I was growing grass and I was doing it against the law, I was not growing it so that you could fly and drive at the same time. I was doing it so you could squint your eyes in front of the Christmas tree and get really, really, really pretty pictures. So that's where my brain
Yeah, I
goes
mean,
with
what
it.
was wrong with just smoking a joint, eating a couple of Twinkies, and going to sleep? Why was that fucking problem?
And I'm that guy. Go ahead.
Well, Reverend.
No, I said guilty.
Yeah, guilty, totally, straight up. And that was always the point. So we became a majority government then. That's where you get it. And then we did another election, and it pushed us back into the category of minority government. And now, in this point here, like right around here, this is all the consequences of COVID and the trucker protests that took place and all of that good nonsense that was all attached. Justin Trudeau lost a lot of popularity. Now, instead, and this is the interesting thing, because even Donald Trump himself said it today, instead of waiting for the next federal election and losing, because Canada has a habit, although there's 4 parties to choose from, we have a habit of going blue, red, red, blue, blue, red, 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 blue, blue, red, red, blue, blue. So back and forth, clearly. And
Same.
Trudeau knew this. He knew that if he allowed this to go to the federal election, that the Canadians would take the cheap and easy way out because we're still human beings and we don't apply a ridiculous amount of thought to the Canadian political sphere. There's definitely a grouping of us that do, but not in the everyday average human being. The everyday average human being wants to hear your idea, agree with your idea, and vote for your idea and move the fuck on with their lives. That's how he
Yep.
got the majority. I'm going to make weed legal. Sold. I'll go vote. You make it legal. We move on with our lives. That's how people like to work. And he knew this. And
Yeah.
he was the leader of the Liberal Party. Now, the Liberal Party has been in power in one way, shape, or form for about 10 years. This is the interesting thing, is that when the election came, we had the opportunity to switch it to blue, but we didn't.
Yeah.
Because instead of Justin Trudeau staying in power and ruining the party that he was leading, he stepped down. Now, when he stepped down, the party internally had nothing to do with the country at this point. The party internally voted and elected Mark Carney as the prime minister for a period of time. So this man is going to bring the Liberal Party into the election. We just
Okay, and just to be sure, and sorry to cut you off, I just want to point out to our audience here in the United States that Canadian politics are relatively different than American politics, as is the culture. So when you hear red and blue, don't associate it with being the same ideals as the American conservative and Republican parties.
my
Different?
blue is your red.
Yes.
My
Yeah, I just
gun
wanted to
activists,
deviate.
my conservatives, they're blue.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that distinction so that people weren't getting confused and doing the whole guilty by association thing.
That's right. And then you have individuals like me who are orange, which we are the individuals who agree clearly that the red side has some very valid points. And let's make sure the schools go good. Let's decriminalize marijuana. Let's protect people regardless of orientation, race, gender, and even pronouns at that rate as well. I don't have to agree with it. I can just say that we're not going to hurt or hate people for it. Right? This is the red side. This is what you guys would call the Democratic, the blue, right?
Yeah.
But I also believe that every Canadian house should have a gun. That every human being should know how to render a firearm safe. There's an
Yeah.
altercation, a gun hits the floor. Do you know how to pick it up, drop the clip, empty the chamber? Do you know how to make sure that this firearm will not hurt somebody? Render it safe. I'm a strong believer of that. Can you render your situation safe with the assistance of a firearm? So can you clear your own home? Can you fight off an intruder? We don't have castle laws in Canada. We don't have stand your ground laws in Canada, but I am pro those kinds of laws. So that would make me more blue and then more red. Well, the NDP, the New Democratic Party of Canada, is orange, and they agree on all the good stuff on both sides. They're the political party that said, we want the dental care to be covered by Medicare. For a long time, it was free hospitals, right? And free schools. Now it's free hospitals, free schools, free dental. That's a new thing. And it was the orange guys that put that in. So remember when I explained a minority, they have to work together. So the Liberals wanted to do something, and the guy in orange was like, I'll vote for that, but for my vote, you're giving Canada free dental. And he said, I agree.
Business.
Right? He's like, I agree. And he's on the red side. He's like, free dental, free healthcare, this is not a hard sell. Let's do it. Right? And that's how that shit happens. Well, when he stepped down, Justin Trudeau, stepped down,
Washington, D.C., are you taking notes?
when Justin Trudeau stepped down, he understood that he was the peril of his own party. So Mark Carney came in. He did a couple of things here and there, which helped us, made us look good. He said nice things to Trump. When Mark Carney took over as the interim prime minister, Donald Trump stopped saying 51st state. So,
I noticed that, and then
I'm going to tell you
what I
why.
heard, like they're talking peacefully. Like there was some shit talk between them, or indirectly, I heard. But today, like they seem to be, putting their differences aside and talking like gentlemen. One thing Alex Jones did point out this morning is that Carnegie is not a Canadian citizen. He's a European with a Canadian passport.
So I'm coming into this. That's why I was going to say, why do you think Donald Trump started playing nice? There's only one person or one caliber of person that scares Donald Trump.
Okay.
An international banker.
Yeah.
Because Donald Trump's a businessman, and an international banker controls the power of a country's dollar. We know this. This isn't news, right? Like Rothschilds, yeah. Rockefeller. Okay, so here's the nonsense. Okay, and this is what people really need to like grasp. Carney doesn't need to be Canadian. See, Canada is but one country, part of what's called the Great Commonwealth, that's ran by Great Britain. And we are one of the 52 or 56. Fuck, it might even be 58 now. See, the Americans, y'all got a shit ton of states right below us. But the king has Canada, and I think equal or more countries than you guys have states. And so, like, the Commonwealth is very, very large. And in order to be a citizen of any of the Commonwealth countries, you just need to be a citizen of the Commonwealth countries. So in essence, I was born and raised in Canada, but I'm allowed to go to Australia, and I'm treated the same in Australia as I'm treated at home because we're both Commonwealth nations. The king owns Australia.
So it's Commonwealth citizenship, just like in the United States, we have states. You have
nations,
a Commonwealth of nations.
Same principle.
And your nations are effectively your states.
Yes. See, that's why the king of the time, which really it was the queen, when Adolf Hitler, when he was doing like the National Socialist thing, he understood that socialism inside of a country worked quite well for as long as that it was executed in an appropriate way. Canada's continuously proved that because we are socialist. We're a socialist democracy. So no matter who wins on which side of the political sphere, there are systems in our country that are mandatory to be paid for by the government so that everybody can use it. And this is the only reason why we let you tax us. And if you take this away from us, we will not pay taxes. And then they won't get paid. They lose their jobs. And then it's a civil war and it's foolish. But the people that are collecting the taxes that would lose their jobs, they use these systems just as much as the common man. The rich guy and the poor guy both get sick. So let's make the hospitals available for everybody. It's always there. It's always open. Things like that. So running a country in a socialistic manner works, sort of. So what Hitler was doing was he realized, well, what happens if I have 4 countries, separate countries that are helping each other under a socialist model, the same way a socialist country would help its citizens. Anyway, it's a very interesting. Everybody talks about Adolf Hitler, but they never talk about the system of government that he used. That's what they went to war with. They never went to war with the dude. They went to war with the system of government that was currently running Germany. There's no other nation in the world that is ran as a National Socialist nation. The reason is that the only thing that would have butt heads with that idea was the Commonwealth of Nations. The nations that the people that were already gathered together and helping each other in a socialistic fashion. They didn't want Adolf Hitler to start fighting the king for these countries that were already doing it correctly. We didn't want to swap flags, change languages, just so that we could continue to live the way that we were already living. And that's why these Commonwealth nations got involved with World War II. That's why Hitler had to be stopped in that context. It had nothing to do with the Jews. It had everything to do with governing party. It's easy to sell it's about the Jews because now you got bleeding hearts and then the story closes faster and no more questions are asked. But it was the form of government that he used. So that segue, the reason why that's important is that Mark Carney, he's not a Canadian. He's actually like an international banker that used to live in Great Britain. And if I'm not mistaken, unfortunately, the blemish on his record in that part of the world was that he tanked an entire nation's economy. He outright tanked it. So we have to be mindful of this. But there is something to be said is that it's very hard to tank the Canadian economy. And it's not about being like chest out and reduced humility. That it's not about being boastful. It's just the nation sits on a very large treasure troves of natural resources, similar to the United States, just in different directions. And that's what Trump and Carney were talking about today. So this was what impressed Donald Trump, was that the Liberal Party was losing. The Trudeau had tanked it. It was going under. Statistically speaking, we were supposed to go blue. It just made sense that the country was going to vote blue because we had about 10 years of red. We were just due. Then Mark Carney came in and Donald Trump started to behave real quick. Well, it's because Donald Trump doesn't want Mark Carney to call his old fucking international banker buddies and start giving the United States a hard time on the monetary side of things. I don't know exactly how deep and how crazy that can get, but I know one phone call is all it takes when a world leader decides to fuck somebody up. So if you see Donald Trump,
especially where the money's concerned,
right? Because he even said it. He told him, he's like, well, I really like that, that we would just be one landmass and one country and that invisible line. He said all of that right in front of Mark Carney. And that's where Mark Carney made a very important message to Donald Trump in the politest words available, because of course he's Canadian, because it's important for people to realize that I don't own my country. And Prime Minister Mark Carney, he doesn't own our country. He's merely a representative, because there's 2 echelons above Mark Carney. Everybody thinks that Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, is top dog. That the buck stops there. But no, Mark Carney has to answer. He's accountable to the Governor General, and the Governor General, it does that with a couple of the national leaders inside of the Commonwealth, and then the Governor Generals, and there's a few of them. The Governor General, they are accountable directly to the King. So Mark Carney's job today was to very politely explain to Donald Trump that, because Donald Trump's like, I'm in real estate and I'm very artistic. And Mark Carney said, as a man in real estate, you must understand that there's just some properties that are never for sale. He's like, I'm sitting in one right now. He goes, because they were in the Oval Office. He goes, I'm sitting in a piece of property that'll never be for sale. You visited Buckingham Palace. That's a property that'll never be for sale. And then he said it. He goes, and after conferring with the owners of Canada, it has been decided that Canada will never be for sale. It's as close as we can get to being a sovereign nation and not worrying about war for as long as the king goes, what are you doing? Leave my Canada alone. That's mine. Back off. And for as long as the king continues to do that, there's 50 plus countries protecting Canada. That's why Russia hasn't just rolled on in and gave the Americans a hard time. That's why the Americans haven't just rolled on in and given the Russians a hard time. Because aside from the fact that the Americans and the Russians will be forced to fight each other, the second someone attacks Canada, they'll be forced to fight over 50 countries spread all over the globe. So if you're this country and you're fighting that country over there, and now you've decided to fight Canada, well, maybe the country beside the country you're attacking is going to get support, which otherwise wouldn't receive support, but you attacked a Commonwealth country. See, everybody's talking about Article 5 with NATO, but like we as the Commonwealth, we got that. We're good. It's why the king visits the United Nations and does not hold a seat on the United Nations, because the king's Commonwealth is physically larger than the United Nations. So he's just a prestigious guest. Great to see world peace or an attempt at world peace when we all know that this is the stemmings of the elites, this is the backdoor dealings, this is the families. Yeah. This is the narrative that we see. So yeah, Mark Carney is totally an international banker that was slipped in as an unelected figure into Canadian politics, but then later, and this is the impressive part, even impressed Donald Trump, won the national election. So now he's not just a dude that was put in and never voted for. A matter of a few months later, he took his party into the national federal election and won. Yeah. Now it's a minority still, but it's a minority where his party's the one in charge. So they all have to agree with him, or he has to agree with one person. It's not, he takes his ball and goes home with it. But in 2 years, if he does a good job, he can win a 4-year majority. Yeah.
Right. So that's the way you guys do it.
Yeah.
The problem with is that, I'm a big fan of Greenland or Iceland, for one thing. Iceland took care of business with their shit. And one thing that does piss me off about Trump wanting Iceland and shit. Why? When it's been doing fine for this whole entire time. We don't need that area.
Well, you would need. So if we were to pretend for a quick iota that Canada and the United States, that we're not friends no more, and then we lose. Let's say we lose the war. The Americans, they just overpower us. Well, what the Americans gain access to is the Northwest Passage. So why would the Americans want Greenland after that? It would just staging points, just infrastructure, just for the Northwest Passage. So when you look around, when you look at the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal, all of that infrastructure that's around that to make that work, they would have to build that up by the Northwest Passage. Well, when you observe the geographic locations of the Northwest Passage, it's all little islands, and it makes it quite hard to work on. But at the either end of it, you got Greenland on one side. That's a nice solid piece of mass that you could do a lot of development with. Okay, don't take the fucking country. Just ask Greenland. Be like, bro, you want in on this? Yeah, there's money to be made. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Right, but no, everybody wants to take everybody's fucking country.
The way I see it, they're trying to make it like Puerto Rico. You know, like they basically the U.S. basically took over Puerto Rico, basically.
Yeah, and
Pretty
it's
much,
crazy.
yeah.
Took over Guam.
It's like the United States is making its own Commonwealth of Nations.
And that's that. And when it's all belonged to one person, that's not a Commonwealth of Nations anymore. That's an empire.
Yep.
That's the difference. And that's why the king is like, the one thing that the king was wise on was that I'm just gonna stay king. I won't make them all have my flag. I won't make them all speak my language. I won't make them all have my religion. I will not create an empire. I'll just make a really big kingdom. Let's see how that works. So there is geopolitical stuff that makes sense for the king to just be like, I'm just going to stay a king for now.
Yeah. Instead of trying to be like Longshanks.
That's right.
If you can't get them out, breed them out, as he said.
Right.
The problem with
Exactly.
Scotland is it's full of Scots.
Literally. And that's like, that was these things. These were done in the past, right? And this is the whole like those who are doomed. You're doomed to repeat your own history if you don't understand it. I know I said that wrong, but I know everybody understands what I said.
Those who do not remember history are doomed to repeat it.
Yes,
but you were pretty well spot on,
right? So, and that's these things. So, like, we've done some atrocious shit to each other, just Canada, United States, in past and previous conflicts and war, and like neither one of us want to revisit that, like, because now we're like, there's more people. It's physically easier. The amount of damage on both sides. Like, you got rednecks, I got rednecks, right? Like, yep. you guys hunt grizzlies, we hunt grizzlies. Like, it's gonna get fucking retarded, and no one. And the worst part is no one's going to want to.
I don't hunt bears, but I hunt tacos.
Right?
You and me both.
So every day is Sunday day.
So yeah, so we promised the audience last week a specific topic, because like that was the real world stuff. Like that's not even conspiracy theory. that's just happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and we got to be on top of things, and kind of fill in the blanks, where everybody else may not necessarily cover it.
Right. Well, everybody's kind of looking in very interesting directions. Like they're just waiting for the next big boomer, right? Because Russia, Ukraine's been quite quiet, right? Mark Carney, that's one thing. Trump and Carney are like, they're on the same page, writing the same fucking book when it comes to helping Ukraine. The thing is that Donald Trump, he would not have given the Ukrainians as much like money and stuff, not because he's not nice and not because he doesn't want to do it. I just believe Donald Trump would have a far more forceful approach. So he could have given less items and more permission, if you get my drift. So in the beginning, we gave a lot of items, and it made us all look real cool. All these Leopard tanks, all of these missiles, all we're going to argue about sending these certain kinds of planes because they can hold nuclear weapons. And then now we don't know if we're even going to allow them to fire. Why give somebody a goddamn missile if you're not going to let them use it? Because this is the pretext, right? Russia is just simply saying, if a missile hits inside of Russia and it's made in the USA, I'm going to hurt the USA. And that's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if I'm having a dispute with my neighbor and somebody comes and gives me the gas and matches to burn their fucking house down, that person's just as guilty.
If they said they wanted to be neutral and that they didn't want to get involved with the conflict, they never should have given you the jerry can.
Exactly.
Right.
So
that's why
the difference just as guilty.
The difference in Canada and the United States, unfortunately, in this context, is Canada's United States sends bullets and we send bulletproof
medics.
And the medics. your tools and toys that get sent to the war zone take lives, and our tools and toys try to preserve it, whether you're stopping the bullet or stopping the bleeding. That's why when both of us shake hands and look at someone and say, you're fucked, we really mean it, because we're like, you go. What? There's more American soldiers with guns to move forward and shoot. And we're like, well, what are you going to do with the wounded? I got an entire Canadian army to pick up the wounded right behind you, and we'll send them home on your behalf, and they won't be in caskets. Why? Because we got the ways to stop the bullets and stop the bleeding, which means more American medics can actually take on active push forward duty. And it's like, who are you going to, and I know the American hospital system is overwhelmed, and but at the end of the day, the American hospital system only sees those who can afford to be seen, where the Canadian hospitals, we see everybody for everything, no matter what, tralali, tralala, which tells me that my doctors, as limited as they are, they have more hands-on to patients than the Americans do, which is and more crazy, weird shit that most American doctors wouldn't see because the patient wouldn't be able to afford to see the doctor. Where my doctors, they get to see that.
I'm not necessarily a fan of socialism, but I would say, government funded healthcare and dental and vision and shit would not be a bad idea. I mean, if I'm paying fucking taxes, I may as well benefit from it. I mean, you sure as hell ain't fixing the fucking roads like you said you were doing. I'm still seeing the potholes.
And you know how we always talk about perversion of language? One of the things that happens in the United States is that the socialism is immediately equated with communism.
The communism. Yeah.
Right. And that's China. Social communist. That's China. You can only have a certain amount of money, and I'm going to make everything available for you. That's social communism. We're a social democracy, meaning we choose our representatives and we make sure that life-saving things are available for free. And otherwise, we are allowed to make as much money as we want, but we're taxed. So we all pay. And instead of it being a certain amount of money per person, it's a percentage. So everybody pays their fair share, even though a billionaire's 15% does not look like the fair share. It looks like the drop in the bowl. But if I put his 15% beside my 15%, where I don't even pay into the fucking shit, they cut me a check. That's the other thing. In Canada, if you're below the poverty line, okay, so the poverty line, if I'm not mistaken, is something like 62,000 for one person. Okay, so if you make under $62,000 a year, all the taxes that you've paid, so I get 15% taken off of my paycheck every 2 weeks when I'm a working Canadian. Now, if when I file my income tax, I make less than $62,000, I get what's called, there's this fucking fairy tale word, dude. You ready for this fairy tale word? Tax return. So everything that
we
was
get a
taken
tax return too here in the States, but I don't think we're talking about the same things.
Well, if I make under 62,000 and I got 4 kids, my tax return is more than $5,000.
Okay, so it's not all that dissimilar then.
Yeah, so it's and that's why we can't fight. That's why as Canadians and Americans, we really can't fight. Our lifestyles are so similar. Like, so Americans got Muslims, I got Muslims too.
Jared just dropped off. We lost Reverend, and I think he can't find the cornucopia on his underwear.
Oh, that happens, right?
Yep.
So and that's the other thing. So
moving forward,
is he back yet? No, he's not back yet.
No, I'm keeping an eye out for him. He'll be back.
Cool.
But moving forward, since we're on the subject of the cornucopia not being on your underwear anymore, here he comes.
There it is.
Yep. Did you find the cornucopia on your underwear?
Too much corn, man. Too much corn.
Too much corn.
Too much corn? Okay, did Mickey Mouse have a tail?
Ooh. What about Shaggy's Adam's apple?
Yes, did Shaggy have an Adam's apple?
Right. I've seen the pictures where he does, and I've seen the pictures where he doesn't. So this is the interesting thing, okay? Because I've been looking into it, okay? So I have two theories, and most of the time, I'll always have two theories because what I do is I take a subject, and in my brain, because I think I'm special in that way, I argue both sides, like adamantly. I'm like, no, it's real. No, motherfucker, it's fake, and this is why it's fake. No, but it's real because of this. Okay, well, if what you're saying is real, then that means this happened, and then I have a pretty definitive answer as to what happened. Whether people are prepared to accept it or not, it's up to them. And then if it's not real, and if it is fake, I have another definitive answer to that debate. So that's how I can take a conspiracy theory and put it to bed. Because then all I do is I sit back and I wait to see which one materializes. If I was right, if the side of the argument in my brain was correct, then this was going to happen. And if that's going to happen, then I'm going to start seeing effects of it. Example, COVID. It's only going to last 2 weeks. Don't worry about it. It's only going to last 2 weeks. Right? And then the other side of my brain says, but why
Damn
are
it,
they
now Revan's
welding
got a hat. I gotta have a hat now.
right?
Bastard.
Right. So now so now I'm like, why are the Chinese welding their population inside of their homes? A country in which doesn't overly care about its population, right? Whether it lives or dies, unless this contagion runs the risk of infecting the elite political class. In order for that to be a fear, you need to know a thing or two about a thing or two, and then you have to make a decision and act according to the information you have. So if you're the Chinese Communist Party and you're watching this virus spread at a ridiculous fucking rate, and according to your information, you won't be able to keep your political elite class safe without welding your working class into the buildings, might be a little bit bigger than 2 weeks, bro. I don't know. But if the Chinese don't think they can handle it, then we might be being lied to. So right from go, right then and there, I was like, okay, well, I have a definitive answer on this side and a definitive answer on that side. By the time I had a definitive answer that said, this is more realistic, it's more real than fake, and it's going to last. And I knew exactly how long it was going to last before I would have a definitive answer as to whether or not our lives were at jeopardy. A year and a half was when I was going to know. So when it started, they said 2 weeks. I said, this isn't 2 weeks, and don't act like it. And I got all my friends and family put together, and I raised my voice, and I was like, by the fucking power of the baby Jesus, you're going to listen to me because I'm not lying to you. And so we followed suit. And then all of a sudden the next day, because I said this on a Friday, and Monday, all the schools were closed. And then say, oh, it's only going to last 2 weeks. When they said it was only going to last 2 weeks, I sent everybody out, including myself, and I started getting extra toilet paper, but not in the ridiculous amount. I grabbed 5. Why? And then they're looking at me, they're like, why? I was like, look, toilet paper is made 17 blocks to the left. We have a Majesta toilet paper mill. We will never run out of toilet paper. We will be fine. But that doesn't mean that everybody else in the city understands that. And just because I am not encouraging panic buying does not mean that panic buying won't happen. I was like, so if you think that next week you're going to come and buy an item off of that shelf, I want you to buy 3 of that item, because I swear to you, it will not be on that shelf in 2 weeks. 2 weeks came and it wasn't on the shelf. 2 weeks after that, everything started to get fixed because they started to reopen the trades and the border, and everything started to flow again. And then it went back to an economic, commercial form of normal. Now all I had to worry about was how fucking dangerous was this virus?
Well, gee, considering it only really negatively impacted the elderly and was pretty much the equivalent of your standard flu.
Yes. Everybody's like, it's
I
the
wouldn't
flu on
say it's
steroids.
really that big of a threat.
It
I
wasn't.
mean, I think the flesh-eating bacteria of the '90s that we dealt with. I don't know how many people actually remember that, but I remember that being briefly a thing. The flesh-eating bacteria of the '90s. I think that was probably more of a prevalent threat than the social equivalent of the flu.
Yeah. And it's actually the cold. Everybody's like, it's the flu on steroids. It's like, no, the flu is an influenza, and COVID is a coronavirus. Now, the coronavirus is the
The
common
shitty
cold.
Mexican beer virus.
Right, yeah. The Mexican beer virus. That's right. So the coronavirus is what me and you and everybody, it's the common cold. That's what but it was the common cold on steroids. And the Chinese knew this. That's why the bat lady went missing. The bat lady was a doctor in China who studied the coronavirus. When she went missing, I got worried because we have what you guys all know or have at least heard of gain of function by now. Dr. Fauci had used the word a couple of times.
Yes.
But most people didn't even know what gain of function meant, so nobody gave a shit. But gain of function is when you make a virus and then you make another virus from that virus and you make a better, more dangerous version of that virus so that you can then create an antivirus for the more dangerous one in the event the biological terrorist gets a hold of it. If we don't do it, they're
And
going.
then they went and released it and then made millions of dollars off the cure. Or the
That's
alleged cure that didn't actually cure anything. And
it wasn't the cure.
You know,
that's the thing. It's not
cost
what they didn't
everybody
make
else
money on the
shit for
cure. This is where I'm going to teach people a few things.
Here he goes. I already know where this is going.
Everything that you
Here's
said
the
is
baton.
true.
Run with it, brother.
Everything that you said is true. It just needs to be applied in the appropriate direction. So they made billions and billions of dollars off of the cure, but the cure isn't actually the vaccine. The money isn't made off of the COVID vaccine. Yes, there's billions of dollars, trillions perhaps. So we can't sit here with a straight face and say that no money is being made on the COVID vaccine. That would just be a blatant lie. What I'm saying is that the businessman that was doing this wasn't worried about the COVID vaccine money. What he wanted was all the money that's attached to any vaccine that is ever produced using CRISPR technology.
Oh.
That's what COVID.
And this is where it comes in. This is what I'm talking about when I say we cover things that most people don't cover. Case and point, brother. My brother in Christ, I love you. Thank you.
Right.
I can admit, I took the shot.
I got 3 of them. I used to work in a medical clinic. Right.
I never got it. I knew better.
But never ever took the booster.
Oh yeah, no, I did all that. And here's the fun part: it's not.
But I don't think most people did.
No, most people didn't. And I'm probably one of the very few conspiracy theorists out there that like guys, don't worry. The shot's like theoretically safe. It's actually safer than what people used to take. But see, the only reason why I understand that is because I went to college to be a vet assistant, right? And like we need to understand vaccine schedules for dogs and cats and all that shit. So like there's a whole segment that you got to learn about vaccines. And when I realized that CRISPR tech was coming with a vaccine, I was like, holy fuck, this is awesome. So for those of you who don't really understand what CRISPR technology is, CRISPR technology is used for a great meridian of things, especially in lines of genetic research. But like, if you have the building blocks of something, CRISPR tech will make that thing. No, now, for instance, how can you tell when man made something and God made something? How can you tell the difference? Okay, this is the answer. When God makes it, he can give you the recipe and you still can't make it. Okay, when God makes it, he can give you the recipe and you still can't make it. Now, what the fuck does that mean? What's the recipe to water?
2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen.
Go ahead and make yourself some water. You have the recipe, but you can't, right? That's how you know. Okay. Well, this is the fun part about CRISPR tech. You want to talk about playing God? If I take H2O, if I take 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen and I put it in the CRISPR tech, I'm gonna get water.
Yep.
It'll make it for me. Boom. So that's what CRISPR tech is.
The guy that built a machine that created water out of nothing.
Yeah, straight up.
And then you have little things like this. Most people don't know that these have numerous health benefits, very medicinal. But most people don't know it. They think it's a fucking weed.
Yeah, it's just a weed.
Little dandelion. Yep.
It's a
little
cancer
medicinal. Yeah.
Everything
around you is medicinal. There's so many medicinal things around you that you don't even realize are medicinal because Big Pharma tells you that it's just a weed, so we need to spray it with Roundup. No. So many things out there that are medicinal that they don't want you to take because they want you to take the petroleum-based medicines that they produce. Because
Amber Lyons, she was a reporter with CNN. And she left.
I mean, you can't charge people for a dandelion, but you can charge them for a bottle of aspirin.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Amber Lyons went to Mexico, up in the mountains of Mexico, in Oaxaca. And out there, they draw these leaves, these little leaves, and it's equivalent to an energy. Like if you know on one leaf, it's equivalent to a thing of NAS or
Red Bull.
Yeah, Red Bull and everything else. It's medicinal. The leaf.
Yeah, but they don't want you eating the leaf. They want you drinking the Red Bull and the NOS and, hyping yourself up on sugar and caffeine. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I drink more than my fair share of soda. I've been trying to cut back for a long time. Like, I got this fucking mushroom coffee that I try to drink now instead of drinking so much soda.
The kombucha.
The soda was my coffee for the longest time, and I'm trying to cut back.
That River Madness is to say, if you smoke reefer, this will happen to you. Bullshit! I watched it. I let my ass off. Marijuana is not a Schedule 1. It's like, well, marijuana is a gateway drug. Bullshit.
You do know what the original vernacular was? Why the FDA labeled it as a drug in the early 1900s, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just
you still had segregation back in the day and all that, post-slavery. And the argument against marijuana use was that it prompted the human brain to push the subject into interracial relations.
Well, that's not an issue anymore. It's not.
It wasn't quite used, put so nicely. I'm using a more culturally appropriate modern day vernacular, but you get the idea.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, who's got the reverb? Oh, I'm blowing out my damn eardrum.
All right. So here's the short and skinny on the ending of the vaccine and the Mandela effect, because we're going to open a huge can of worms before we close today's segment. So this is the basics on vaccines. There's 4 kinds of vaccines before the CRISPR tech came. Back in the day, they would give you what's just called a straight up live vaccine. So they would just take a virus and they would put that shit in you. And then you would get sick and we would mitigate the symptoms. And then as you got better, voila, natural immunity. We all know that word. That one was thrown around a lot. Yep. That's a live vaccine. Maybe the virus is a little too powerful. You can't just be giving that shit to people. You're going to kill them. You can't mitigate the symptoms. All right, no problem. We'll just kill it. So we'll kill it and we'll inject that. And then the white blood cells will find the dead corpse and they'll take the genetic markers that they need and natural immunity. Okay, but what if this virus being is still too much? Okay, that's okay. I'm going to kill it and I'm going to rip a piece of it off, and I'm just going to inject the piece of it into you. So there's just enough genetic markers for the white blood cells to do their job, and then voila, natural immunity. Okay, but what if the virus is dangerous, but not so dangerous that I have to kill it? That's okay. What I'll do is that I'll rip its arms and its legs off, and I'll keep its head, and I'll inject that into you. And when the white blood cells encounter it, they will have a few questions, and it will talk. And then after it's done talking, they'll kill it. And then voila, natural immunity. So these 4 kinds of vaccines are called live vaccines, modified live vaccines, dead vaccines, or partials or fractured vaccines, just a little piece of the virus. But at the end of the process of all 4 of these, you get voila, natural immunity. Well, natural immunity, okay, we're going to, from now on, for the purpose of this explanation, I'm going to call natural immunity a blueprint. The blueprint that your body requires to kill a virus is what me and you would call natural immunity, but it's a blueprint. Okay. I know this because we do this with reptiles. Okay. You guys know, you guys have rattlesnakes and you guys have anti-venom, right? You get bit, you take this shit, you don't die. Very basic stuff, right? Okay. How do we make anti-venom? What we do is we take the venom and we fucking stab a horse. Then we take the blood from the horse. We segregate the red blood cells and the white blood cells. I know, very cowboy and Indian shit. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. We just separate the white blood cells from the red.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Now, with the white blood cells, we find the blueprint on how to kill the effects of what the venom is doing. Okay. So we take the blueprint, and this is now called anti-venom. It's a serum that we put through a centrifuge, and we separate from the white blood cells furthermore to only have what we need. Anyway, it's a big fucking science. That's how you make anti-venom. Well, that's what we did. Everybody's like, this was the fastest way that we could possibly make a vaccine. Yeah, it's because we're smarter now. This is what we did. We took COVID, we gave it to a horse. We drew the horse's blood, and then we segregated the white blood cells. We found what was needed to kill COVID. The horse gave it to us. They always do. Okay. Then with CRISPR technology, we took the blueprint needed. So the voila, natural immunity. We took the blueprint needed to acquire that. And with CRISPR technology, we have what's called a very simple virus. It's called the adenovirus. Now, the adenovirus is everywhere. You touch your counter, you lick your fingers, you've taken in the adenovirus. It's just that easy. Okay, puppy, you got to relax, man. Sorry. So with the adenovirus inside of the CRISPR tech and the blueprint to kill COVID inside of the CRISPR tech, we married them. Once we married them, we created a virus that was very easy for our bodies to kill, married with the blueprint that we needed to kill a virus that we were all afraid of, COVID. We put that in the needle and we injected ourselves with that. The thing is that another very natural thing was going to happen with this virus. We've all seen it in movies. It mutated. So when it mutated, we had to make sure that it was mutating not as hard, becoming a more dangerous virus, or when it mutated, that it would mutate less dangerous. We were lucky. When it did its mutation, it mutated to being less dangerous. If it would have mutated to being more dangerous, thankfully, we already had the technology and we already had everything we needed to make this vaccine. At no point when you take the COVID vaccine is your white blood cells working to kill a virus in order to get the natural immunity. So quite legitimately, the microbiological fight that happens on the inside of the human body, which is where me and you would call ourselves sick, that part never happened. But any other format of vaccine up until the COVID vaccine, you would exhibit some sort of symptoms of the virus that you were being vaccinated against. That's why when most people take a flu shot, they get the flu
They
for
feel
3-4
flu
days.
symptoms. Yeah.
That's right. With COVID vaccine, that doesn't happen because your body's not actually fighting the virus. It's just collecting the blueprint. People don't know that. It's very hard to teach that to people. That is now the new conspiracy theory for those who understand what's up. That, like, for once, we made a technology that was actually beneficial. But just like everything that's beneficial, we're being sold that it's negative. So
Yeah.
that's my take on that vaccine. I'm not anti-vaccine, but I'm not pro like fucking jab yourself if you don't need it. I'm not abusive medicine type of guy. I'm just, I try to
Yeah.
be as smart as possible with it. I'm just gonna let.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of things that were put in the vaccine, like
Yeah.
that triggered HIV and other shit. I don't know the specifics and the dynamics, but I do know that there were some things that were put in there. Nanotech, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of things that
It's not
they
that.
were
That's the
injecting
thing.
people with a lot of shit that they shouldn't have been
It's
injected
not.
with
This
those
is it's not.
with those
It's not
vaccines.
nanotech injected in. Nanotech is the CRISPR tech. So when I say they take it and they marry it
Yeah.
together, they use nanotechnology to marry it together.
Yeah.
They're not injecting us personally with nanotechnology. The technology required to make the blueprint of a white blood cell become the nucleus of a virus, you would need teeny tiny nanotechnological robots to make that cellular merge take place. That wouldn't happen what we would call naturally.
So basically, if we were to put that into a more simplistic context, the movie Twister from the '90s, the sensors that went up into the tornado and sent back readings.
I know.
Are you gonna?
That's essentially the idea that you're selling.
Yes, absolutely.
And the computer that it's relaying it back to is the body's autoimmune system.
Yeah. And it's just it's so basic, it's so simple. They used all of the largest forms of technology that we've been researching for X amount of years, and that's why they made the fastest vaccine, because once it was made because, like, back in the day you had to test this for a very long time, because, like, well, if I was doing a modified live, am I really killing the virus? Did I kill it properly? Did it come back to life? Is it a zombie virus? Is it going to fucking hurt the host when I inject it? Way
Yeah.
too much research, too much risk. With this thing, I'm using a virus that you kill every day, every second of your life, and I'm giving you the answer to a virus that's hurting you. But the technology attached, it's bigger than what I've explained. But the way I've explained it, that is the layman terms
Yeah.
of explaining
Yeah.
how crazy that
You
is.
touched on one element, the more positive element of the COVID-19 vaccine and the subsequent boosters and whatnot. But I don't think you or even anybody is going to try to make the argument that, there were some nefarious shit that went on in regards to these vaccines. There were some things that were put in the vaccines that shouldn't have been, and a lot of people died as a result of these vaccines that otherwise shouldn't have died as a result of these nefarious acts.
Well, that's the problem. Is that,
Hence
unfortunately,
why Fauci is in a shit ton of trouble.
I'm the guy. Like, that's the problem. I don't. Fuck. I don't know if I'm called an apologist or like a sympathist or but, like, shit happens. I guess, like, people do die. Right, like, it's like, fuck, like, it's because I want to sue these people just quick as the next person, for like vaccine injury and things like that, but, like, it's like, we
Yeah,
all,
well,
like,
from what I understand
bit
is
the
that
bullet.
not only the viruses, but the mutations and the vaccines were actually all ready to go before the viruses is ever released.
Well, yeah,
A
you
lot of
have
people were
to.
covering that. It's not it wasn't just, what you were saying, the whole, oh shit, this virus broke out. We got to go through the quickest method possible to make a vaccine to eliminate this problem. They
Well,
already had it ready.
that,
Late 2019, there's a front page on the USA Today talking about it was in a little section of the front page saying that they're trying to find create a vaccine for the coronavirus.
Yeah. Well, see, the big thing
Yeah,
is
and this is
this leads into the whole like why I thought like Donald Trump either sold it or gave it or let it happen or whatever, because we all had our ducks in a row before it happened. Right.
Yep.
It just kind of happened. And when I always say things like if they want the North American Union and they want to destroy the Canadian American dollar, well, they need big events to happen to completely shake an entire nation's economies. You don't just sneeze and then boom, it's done. Right. Like,
yeah, you create the problem and then you present the solution, situational design.
exactly. And that's what happened with COVID. But yeah. So as far as now, I got to kill the Mandela effect. In essence, this is where my brain went with it. One of two things happened inside of what people call the Mandela effect. Either A, it's a psyop, and corporations, instead of just going like bankrupt and not existing anymore, they went bankrupt, they rebranded, and the odd time here and there, you would see things like a difference in a logo. You'll find that in the Volkswagen logo. You can find it in the Monopoly logo, the Fruit of the Loom logo. Things altered, changed, missed, so on and so forth. Just understanding the simple aspects of business alone tells me that, excuse me, that people go bankrupt all the time and they rebrand all the time. And maybe it just took us this long to catch on that the X amount of businesses in the 80s and 70s went under and then came back out, all probably in the same swoop of a pen. So people didn't lose their jobs, nothing like that, just moving forward. But I won't lie, there are aspects of it that are extremely weird. And when I trace,
they're denying that they rebranded.
Yes, either just rebranding, but then there's other things too. Like I'm trying to think of, there's etherical things that apply. That Mandela effect was just like, this used to be like this and it's not like that anymore.
Or
and,
the whole, did Mickey Mouse have a tail? Or
right, well, that would fall under
how did Forrest Gump word the whole chocolate line?
Yeah, Shazam's a good one.
Yeah, it's not Shazam. That is one thing I will argue the point on. It was not Shazam. It was never Shazam. It was Kazam. I distinctly remember that. It was Kazam, not Shazam.
But does
that
it have
one's
Sinbad?
bullshit.
But does it have Sinbad in it?
It has Sinbad in it. It was called Kazam because Shazam was already a property of DC and was a completely different character. The whole superhero Shazam thing, that was already copyrighted by DC Comics by the time this Shaq movie came out.
Yeah.
So it was called Kazam.
So there you go.
Like
perfect example.
Alakazam.
Right? So that's why it's that.
Mandela, did he die in 91 or did he die in the 2000s? Right there.
Well, that's the big thing. There's a whole grouping of people that believe that he died when he was in jail, but like we all know the story that Nelson Mandela is the guy that was in jail for a ridiculous amount of time, came out, became president, and died later. Right? So this entire thing about Mandela effect, remembering him dying, he's always gotten out of jail and became the president of what was it, fucking Uganda or wherever the fuck he was.
Yes.
Right. So like that's why I give the Mandela effect zero credence at all in that respect. But if I were to give it credence, then you're literally looking at two dimensions, not planets, not worlds, two entire dimensions merging. And what we would call a soul, the human thought process, not the body, would have jumped from one dimension to the next. Yeah. So if you were an individual like ourselves and, reasonably open-minded to something like that, there is a strong possibility that a version of myself from another dimension would be more than welcome to come and live inside this body and be part of this dimension. But that makes no sense because then like when this is where it gets messed up for some people because there's a dimension where my wife dies and I'm still alive, right? So if the dimensions cross and the guy that comes and takes this aspect of things with me comes from a dimension where my wife is not alive anymore, the woman that he's going to see is not going to be the same person. It's not going to make sense. Or maybe this person is not my wife at all in that dimension. It's going to mess with them, right? So yeah, totally. The dimensional tears, dimensional rifts, but that's how far the Mandela effect reaches if you actually study it. They bring you that far into the ether where the dimensional tear would have been done by CERN when they turned CERN on. And one of the dimensions, there's a dimension where CERN turning on, it blows up. And there's a dimension where CERN turning on, it doesn't blow up. Did the members of Earth in the dimension of which where it blows up, are those souls scattered amongst all of the dimensions where it doesn't blow up? That's some deep, deep etherical shit. So I take a step back from that because I don't comprehend the science required to prove or disprove. But it's far easier for me to say that it's a corporate rebranding because we're making a mountain out of a molehill. It's a great way to distract people.
Yeah, a great way to distract people by rebranding and then fucking with them to say, oh, we never did that.
Right? Like there's like things like perfect examples.
Go ahead, Revan. Plausible deniability. Yes, Revan.
And to add more to the rebranding, one of the Mandela effects, Luke, I am your father, or I am your father, whether he says the word Luke or not, there were literally remakes. You could have been at the theater during the release and heard one way. And then when I went to the theaters, when the remakes of 4, 5, and 6 were made, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. So there's that.
The version is, "Oh, I am your father."
Thank you, Jack. Yeah. Exactly. So there's that. So in essence, that's why I don't give it too much credence. You're just gonna have to walk right down. Yeah, you put out your shoes. Yeah. So that's why I don't give it too much credence. Now, on the other hand, I got this guy that I've been following on the internet. I've been paying attention.
Oh, here we go.
I don't really like this individual, what he's doing. So
here comes the climax of our story, ladies and gentlemen.
Right? There is somebody on the internet over the past year that has taken our eschatological discussions, the material that we cover, and then they chose to research it in greater depth, which is all the power to them. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's
but then again,
thing.
You know, when you take that power, it depends on how you use it.
Right. Now, I don't want anybody watching to assume that this is a personal attack to any of our viewership, because I'm going to say something that may not float very easily. So I do apologize. I have a hard time with individuals who are declaring a format of divinity. Now, this man,
especially considering we're the format of unity,
right? And divinity is saying that you're some sort of a god, or you're present as some part of the divine plan, and all of these things. I have a very hard time with individuals like this. Now, there's this guy
claiming to be the successor of Jesus Christ.
Yes. Now, we can't have things like
that. I think people are starting to clue into who we're talking about here.
Yeah. So there's this gentleman,
little Mr. Quite possible Antichrist. A lot of people are calling this guy the Antichrist.
Yeah, and he's referring himself to as the Al-Mahdi. Okay. Now that's a name that comes from the Islamic culture, and for those who don't have a desire to research the Islamic culture, that's fine. You have your beliefs and you're allowed to hold them. But I always find it interesting to at least research what people believe, period. You should maintain your
Absolutely.
beliefs, right? But know what other people believe as well. And I found out that the Muslims and the Christians, right? We have the eschatology, that word, it just means a story for the end of time, the story of the last days. Well, our eschatology for the Christians and the Muslims are very similar. The Muslims and the Christians, they believe that in the last days, Jesus is going to come and save the world, which is fine, dude. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. Not even going to poke anything at the baby Jesus. Now, the Islamic culture, there is an individual that will come, and he's going to be called the Mahdi. And the Mahdi's job will be to identify the living Christ. That's important to keep in mind. Okay? If you're going to call yourself someone, you ignorant piece of shit, you better know what that man's job is if you're going to try and pretend that you're going to do the job. Now, you've done this enough on this platform, and you're not going to pretend like we haven't watched you. You are asking individuals to sell their homes and give you the cash and follow you and only you, and that you are the Mahdi, and that you are the successor of Jesus Christ, and that you will bring forward a unity between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, although you feel as though all three of these groups are destroying the earth. So the reason why people are calling you an antichrist is that if you believe that these three are destroying the earth and you want to make them one, well, then you just want to create one large army to destroy the earth. Sure, you didn't say it, but brother, you said it without saying it. You gave away your hand. You're not swift enough to even tango with me alone, esoterically speaking. I'm telling you right now. You send Tinman a message and we can have a conference call and I'll make you look like a teeny, tiny altar boy. Okay.
Yeah,
The only people who understand these eschatological researches better than the Worldwide Resistance Network is literally the university professors that teach it.
Yeah.
Maybe this
And
is
it's not like we ain't been down this road before. YRV. Everybody remembers what I did to YRV.
Right? But this
Revan
one's a little
remembers
bit
that.
bigger.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
YRV attacked us personally, like we were gonna do something bad. This guy is using religious information. What?
YRV originally is from my hometown,
Mm-hmm.
and he moved to Clovis, California.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's basically in the valley. I mean, shit. You know.
Yeah.
Now the reason
and,
why. Hold on, okay,
yeah,
guys.
sorry.
The reason why I'm painting a target on this guy's back is because the United Nations themselves have issued. Now you got to be doing some serious stuff for the United Nations to raise an eyebrow. So the United Nations has stated that if you are seeking a refugee status in Canada or in the United States, we'll say, and you come from another country and you're running away from this cult leader, the United Nations has asked the world leaders who are responsible for the immigration of refugees seeking asylum for this kind of reason to take these people seriously. The United Nations has asked world leaders to give clemency and asylum to individuals running away from this man. If the United Nations is saying that we need to protect people from you, then that means it's time for the online collective to make you disappear from the internet.
And he's already targeted quite a few people online as well, correct?
Yes. And I am putting us on that chopping block and preparing us attack us.
And we've done this before. Tinman was the one we put out there to be attacked, right?
Right.
I've taken on YRV. I've taken on detractors. about the Church of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints, the Mormon Church. Okay, you and I collectively, we have the minds to stand toe to toe with those who think they know.
So this is how it's
So
going to
let's
go.
go.
I'm going to prove my worth. And if I lose this, if this doesn't work the way I want it to work, then I'll bow out. Because if I can't make one fucking crazy guy, if I can't expose one crazy guy, then I have no business doing this. But I'll make a
Okay.
bold claim, and I'm going to ask the internet to help. Anybody who hears this, anybody who shares, anybody, let's get ready. Load the ion cannons, get it ready. This guy doesn't deserve to be online anymore. He's targeting the wrong kind of people, taking the money, doing all the wrong things. So here's how I'm going to put it to you. Mr. Mahdi, God created the earth in 6 days and rested on the seventh. We are currently Tuesday. And in 7 days, I'm going to come back to this channel. And you, my friend, more than welcome to join me. Now, here's the fun part. Whether you're here or not, all the information that I've gathered about you inside of 7 days will be exposed. So if you have a criminal record, if you ever hurt anybody physically, if you ever have a negative history with the little children, if there's anybody out there who knows, they're going to share it with us. The reason being is that you, sir, are taking the exact belief structure that I took 10 years to establish and create. And inside of 1 year on an internet platform, you started scamming people with it.
That's a big no-no.
You want to be the successor of Jesus Christ? No problem. Stand on a rock and preach, because your online profiles won't work
because
for a whole lot
Christ
longer.
said, now you brought up a good point. He's sitting there saying, sell all your belongings, give me the money, and follow me. Christ never taught that. That is the exact opposite of what Christ taught. He said to one rich man, sell everything you own and give it to the poor and follow me.
That's right. Now this guy here, he's presented himself like if the Mormon church met Scientology and made an online religious platform. He's got the same kind of Scientology fucking grasp and grip on his congregation. But when you look at his sceneries when he preaches, he looks a whole lot like the Mormon church. So the problem is that he can't be.
I don't think even many Latter-day Saints would even know who the hell this guy is unless they've been on the internet and seen the Antichrist videos that have been made about this guy.
Right? So, and he's not even, this is the worst and sad part. Ladies and gentlemen of the world, he's just a crazy guy. Like, he's not even the Antichrist. He's not even that.
Yeah, because you think that the world government, the world elites, who want the Antichrist system to come to pass and the totalitarian control system to come to pass, would be all welcoming to the actual Antichrist. But if they especially the UN, are in opposition, saying, hey, we need to protect refugees who are running from this guy, there is a bigger story to this than what is being sold on the internet. This guy isn't some Antichrist. He's a fucking nut job.
He's just a nut job. And he's a nut job who happens to come from a different country. And that's playing in his favor because a lot of people are really rejecting the whole white Jesus side of things. So they're having an easier time following the Arabic man because Jesus was Arabic. So if there was to be a return, he would be of that descent. Tralali, tralala. Okay. So remember when I used to say manufactured end day zeitgeist?
Yes.
people took the 3 Doom books together and they just started acting out the script. Well,
Yep.
this guy
I've been
here,
saying that for years.
yeah, this guy here, he's acting out the script. He just didn't get the lead role because in the last days, a great many of false prophets will rise. And what has always been my concern, because YouTube is an international platform and everybody can see us, and I have very strong opinions, that yeah, totally, there could be a grouping of individuals that could just decide, I'm following this crazy man, selling everything, following him.
Yeah, I remember in Hemet, California. I don't know if this is still a thing. I don't even know what they were called, but these guys were just running around in white robes, and they followed this guy who claimed to be. What is that background noise? Is that you?
Yeah.
Hey,
Jesus, what the hell was that? But there was
was that
this
the Ray
guy.
L movement? The Ray L
I
movement?
don't know what the fuck that was, but in Hemet there were these guys, predominantly guys, just run around in these robes. They left their homes, their families, left everything behind to follow this freaking hippie guy that they believed was Jesus, and fucking chilled out in the homeland eating fucking beans. And they believed this guy to be Jesus Christ who had returned.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of guys like this that are going to come up, and I'm going to fucking call every one of them out every time I find one, because during a great time of economic turmoil,
Yeah.
fucking fox is going to be in the hen house, man. They're just nah.
Yeah, and they need to be called out. What was it? Harold Camping that said back in like 2010, 2011 that at some point, I think it was like in like early August, like August 6th, was going to be the end of the world. And I was standing in the fucking cemetery waiting for the dead to rise, because you said the dead were going to rise that day. So I'm standing there. I think it was like August 6th at 6:06 p.m. 6 minutes and 6 seconds past 6 o'clock, standing in this fucking cemetery. And I'm like, well, Harold Camping's full of shit.
Right. So yeah, and you can make that like that call out thing. You can make that like at the very beginning of the thing. Like you can make that like a clip or something at the beginning, or you can do whatever you want when you choose to edit this. You can make a splice it and make it a video that can be passed around, so they don't have to watch the whole fucking 1 hour thing. So you can make a little publicity stunt out of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ride on his coattails. He's creating all of this popularity. Well, fuck it, I'll take his too. It's just he's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to ride our wave. You know, the shit that you've researched, that I've researched for fucking decades.
And now he's using it as a weapon against people. It's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wrote a fucking book defending Latter-day Saint theology, you know, against anti-LDS detractors and rhetoric. And then you take my teaching, my research, you take Connor's research, and you fucking piggyback off the work we fucking did in order to rip people off. Yeah, I published a fucking book to educate people. It's not in print anymore because I had a fucking issue with the publisher because they were fucking stupid and published the wrong the fucking unedited manuscript. But that's neither here nor there. But you're going to fucking take and stand on the hard work of other people who are trying to better humanity, and you're going to try to take advantage of motherfuckers? Uh-oh.
Because he's got stuff
Papa
like back when we were talking to like Ninja Princess and we had our like Islamic girl that was there teaching us what we needed to understand. Like, dude, like he has touched a lot of things. Like he's worked hard. I won't pretend like he hasn't worked hard. This is a solid hustle and a solid scam that he's put a lot of effort into, and he's about to get the payday unless he stopped, unless it just gets spread properly that he's not who he says he is. But anyway, for that, I'm going to have to peace out. It's past my hour that I segregate for us. And I'm going to hit the books because I'm going to do a really solid video against this guy next week. And I can only hope that the viewers come back to see what's up. If there are viewers right now, and let's see.
Yep.
Let's just see.
Yep. Well, until next time.
I would say the biggest hustle is televangelism. Biggest hustle out there.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and he's got
All right.
quite a platform. He does.
If you look at Robert Tilton from the 80s and now. Shit,
What was the name of that old dude that used to do that? He was on TV and he like went everywhere and fuck, man.
Kenneth Copeland.
Yeah. Probably him. And anyway, there's
he's still alive. He's still alive.
Yeah, Billy Joel, was that one?
Billy Joel was a freaking musician, dude.
Billy Graham.
Billy Graham. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Billy Graham.
Okay, that style. If he takes on that style, he and the problem is that like he's Charles Manson style. He's gonna get people hurt without moving a finger. That's the only reason why I'm really actually doing this.
Yeah, and people like that need to be exposed.
Yes. All right.
Well, also got to think about Jim Jones too. Jim Jones.
Yeah. Well, Jim Jones never tried to kill anybody.
Right.
So,
Charles Manson did. And if this guy, if this guy's taking, if this guy's taking a playbook out of Charles Manson's, taking a play out of Charles Manson's playbook with the kind of platform he has, that could be very, very bad.
That needs to happen
with the information he's using. Could you imagine if we took a page out of Charles Manson's playbook, it'd be done. They'd all be fucking singing fucking Halloween hymns in the middle of Christmas for us. That's what I mean. He's doing the shit and it's not proper, man. Anyway, I gotta let you guys go for now. If you guys are watching this, you are the resistance. Oh, you can calm yourself down. All right. Enjoy your evening.
All right. Take care, man.
Peace.
We're just gonna go ahead and call it.
Peace.
Thank you, Grandmaster Revan. Thank you.
I mean, it's like this. You know, you got Scientology. That's a cult that has a tax exempt status.
Oh, I know. I was there when Anonymous
they
showed up at the Church of Scientology in Hemet. That was nuts.
Which is like, dude, he's not a deity. He's not no demigod. He's just a man who went fucking completely nuts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. He's definitely a false prophet per se.
Always.
He's definitely a false prophet per se. And he's taking an undue advantage of people. And, you know, if he's taking a play out of Charles Manson's playbook, that's bad juju. Like, big time bad juju.
I remember.
I'm all for, you know, you want to start your own fucking religion, whatever. I don't care.
2017. And we seen the Scientology building. I go, look.
Yeah, I mean they have the Scientology facility out in Hemet with Golden Era Studios, and they got that big ass fucking boat. They got this big ass fucking living compound, and on one side of it they got this big ass fucking ship, like literally a fucking 1800s style ship.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking huge. And next to that is their big ass fucking chapel, and then all these fucking living quarters, like fucking apartments.
If you look at Scientology, they've been made. They were referenced in games, but in another name, like GTA 5, they're known as the Epsilon program, and then in Watch Dogs 2, yeah. Well,
I mean, they've been doing. You've had organizations like this for years. And I mean, if you want to believe in Scientology, whatever. If you want to follow Morningland and, you know, the successors of fucking, what were their names? Cherie Donato and her husband for Morningland. Well, one of those groups that thought the spaceship was going to fucking come and land and take everybody away.
If you ever played Black Ops, Watch Dogs 2, which take place in the Bay Area, they're known as the New Dawn. Now the reason why they put the as New Dawn is that Scientology would sue Ubisoft for using the name, so they went with the New Dawn. It was a Scientology theme kind of thing, but it was I mean, but
Yeah, I mean,
what
anybody
it
wants to
needs to
follow
lose is
whatever.
their tax exempt status because they're a cult. They're not really a church.
I mean, they can be recognized as a church. I don't really care, dude. I mean, so long as I don't know, man. Like that, the whole Charles Manson playbook that this guy's using. That's what's got me concerned. Like, I don't really give a shit if you want to have a theology and you want to give and you want to join this fucking thing and get 10% of your income. That's your prerogative. That's universal across most any theology, whether it be Christian or
Yeah.
otherwise. I mean, to have anything thrive, it takes money. It takes capital, and if you're crowdfunded, you're crowdfunded. But that whole Charles Manson playbook thing, that's what's got me, dude. This guy might try to
But
pull some stupid shit.
there's still laws though.
I mean, I'd like to see. That's how I got my first exposure to Anonymous was when they showed up to the Church of Scientology. I'm like, who are these guys? What the hell's going on here? You got these guys in little white masks. Like, that's why I made that video because
Yeah, the
back then
guy
I
is just
didn't
kind
know
of a
shit about
problem
Anonymous.
we need to expose.
Yes, this guy needs to be exposed just like Anonymous exposed the Church of Scientology and did what they did. And, that's one thing I do want to cover at some point, like what happened to Anonymous? They just kind of fell off the map. I mean, there's still some people out there that make videos and whatnot, but that in contrast to where Anon was when it started, it was like, where'd everybody go? What happened? And that's a subject I'd like to dive into, maybe get Conspiracy Anon on. He and I still talk from time to time. But I'd like to, maybe do a deep dive into that, like what big do kind of like where are they now?
Scientology right now is breaking some laws. Yeah.
I ain't worried about Scientology, man. I was asking about like Anonymous. Like I think we should do like a VH1 where are they now kind of thing regarding Anonymous.
Scientology is breaking some laws. Well, Anonymous, tell you what. Oh, dude.
Yeah, I mean that's a
I've
topic
seen
for
the
another
first
time.
video that they did. I'm like, man.
Yeah, I mean when they burst
like
onto the scene, they bursted onto the scene, but now they're kind of like old hat. Yeah, I mean I fully support Anonymous, especially with the pedo hunter thing.
But before we go, I have to say this. Scientology is breaking some laws like child labor law.
Really? Elaborate. Out with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course. I mean, they're breaking the child labor laws. They're breaking. I mean, every law in the book they're breaking, man.
So they're having little kids work. They're pretty much using kids as slave labor or something. Is that what you're insinuating?
And yeah.
Oh wow. I mean, I know that there's a lot of families in these communities. Fucking
yeah.
Was it Brad Pitt is a member? And like he got custody of the kids from Katie Holmes.
You got kids, you're
and they're still part of the whole thing.
You're just fine.
Wow. Yeah, I heard like didn't Adam Sandler like help Katie Holmes to get away from him? And that whole thing? Like I heard Adam Sandler kind of had a hand in that.
Scientology needs to be I'm saying this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I would like to see Scientology I'll be honest with you, man.
Close
I
its
want to see
doors.
Scientology investigated by the United Nations.
That
Because it's
that's
getting.
an
I mean,
interesting idea.
even though they have like under 900 members, because the biggest lie, we got 4 million members. Bullshit. They have under 9,000 members. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, those members are very prominent people with a lot of money. That's where they gain their power.
Um,
And if you
because
get
I mean,
somebody like,
they're in what France, Australia.
oh yeah, they're global. They are global. But if this other guy that Connor was talking about, if he's gaining
Well,
traction,
money or not, they're still breaking the law, man.
oh yeah, and that needs to be addressed for sure. Next week when we go to cover this, maybe we can spend a few minutes touching on the Church of Scientology. Do your homework and bring your findings to the table. We'll take a few minutes, set aside, and talk about it. Because I don't think this guy's gonna freaking man up to talk to Connor. I don't think so. If anything, he's probably gonna just fucking start running his mouth, talking shit
All right.
like he does on all the other channels that speak out against him. Which is fine. Let him talk shit. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one and they're all full of shit. And frankly, anybody who doesn't like me can suck my dick backwards and buy me a milkshake. So, but we'll follow up on all this next week. Like I said, do your research on Scientology and bring your findings to the table. We'll set aside a segment for that next week in between talking about Mr. Wannabe Antichrist over here. And until then, on behalf of Connor, thank you, Grandmaster Revan. Until next time, this is Tinman with the Resistance. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance.